Hegel. Hello and welcome to another episode of Ferret 64 with me, your host, Yemmy the Ferret. This is the one-stop shop for all video game news occurrences, first impressions, reviews, and so much more. I hope everyone's been having a good week, or a good weekend. Whenever you're listening to this, I hope that you're having a great day. I'm still a tiny bit congested. It's been like a week or so, maybe even a week and a half since I've been sick, and it's just kind of annoying at this point. But we're good to go for the rest of everything, so let's just get started with what I've been playing this past week. The first thing on my list is, of course, Rise of the Ronin. This is the newest game from Team Ninja, and is actually a first for them. It's like their most ambitious game, and two, it's their first console exclusive. Right? This is the first game that they put out that's PlayStation exclusive, at least at launch. I know that they had a Wo Long console exclusive, right? No, that did release on PlayStation as well. So yeah, I think this is a first for them, the first console exclusive, if I'm not mistaken. I might be mistaken. Don't quote me. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So, Rise of the Ronin takes what Team Ninja is known for, their vast and accessible combat system. There's something for everyone, right? Whether it be dual swords, katanas, pole staffs, spears, etc., from the Neo series, along with its various ranged weaponry like bows and rifles and hand cannons and anything else you can think of. They take all that and they put it into Rise of the Ronin, along with the deflect system or the parry system, whatever you want to call it, along with the exhaustion meter or stamina meter that they had also in Neo and Wo Long as well, along with kind of the banner system from Wo Long, and then they put in a few elements that you kind of know and love from Ghost of Tsushima, like the more cinematic third-person angle, along with stealth mechanics, allowing you to stealth around an area instead of actually having to do open combat like in the Neo series and stuff. So they've taken a lot of ideas and from their past games, and also from and have been inspired by the likes of Ghost of Tsushima, but they've put it into a package that is wholeheartedly the best that Team Ninja has to offer. And I'll talk about it in a little bit, but I did just finish Neo, and although I think that in general Neo is probably a better game, Rise of the Ronin is kind of what I was hoping for when I first played Neo. Right? When I first played Neo, I didn't really know what it was because I wasn't really into Souls games. But I was kind of hoping for like this open adventure in feudal Japan kind of thing, whatever, and that's not what I got. And even though I've learned to enjoy it, and I've learned to get over the fact that my first expectations were not, real, Rise of the Ronin kind of puts us into that time period that's very interesting for Japan, where they are opening up their borders and allowing foreigners to trade with them, whether it be Great Britain, France, or the U.S. And it's also allowed Eastern culture to bleed into the architecture and the life of the Japanese people, at least in like the metropolitan areas, right? So it's very interesting to be going through this beautiful world in the open world, and you see like, the usual Japanese architecture, and then you see a city, and the city has a mishmash of different architecture structures, like colonial structures made out of bricks, and along with the Japanese structures made out of like bamboo and wood and stuff. So it's a very interesting time period. Of course, they take the liberties with everything, so it's not just strictly historically accurate, right? It's also got plenty of fiction in there as well, mixed with some of the nonfiction, of course. So the game starts off, and you get to design two characters. You design these two twins that you can play as. And one of the things that I wasn't expecting going into the game was actually being able to control two characters practically at once. So at the start of the game, you get to choose which character you want to start as, whether it be the male or the female version of the character. And then you go through a tutorial mission, and you learn the basis of the game. And then during like the boss fight for the level, it teaches you that you can actually switch between characters. You hold down like L1 and you press up or down the switch characters. So if one character is low on health or they don't have the right weapons for the job, you can switch to the other one. Now, this is not something that you can do all the time in the game. It is just something you can do during specific missions. So there are these character-specific missions that allow you to switch between two different characters. Because throughout the course of the game, you do find other companions. You can add them to your squad, and you can go on missions with them when the time calls. But outside of combat, you can't do that. It's just you. You're the last twin, and you're going through the open world alone. So, I do kind of wish that you could do that throughout the entire game. I understand the probably the technical limitations, honestly, along with that, having a co-op partner you can switch between everywhere you go. I understand not putting that in there because that is a pretty crazy feat, I would think. If you don't want to play the game solo, you can play it co-op. I believe once you get to the first town and you open up the border to the town, I think that's when you can start doing co-op. I didn't really notice it's saying like, "Hey, co-op is unlocked." So I'm guessing it's when you get to that first town, you unlock the town, and then you can play with up to 2 other people in your squad and do stuff if you so desire. I have been going solo for the most part. Actually, for the full part. I don't know why I said the most part. The full part. Besides from those missions where you can team up with your friends, or not friends, with your little squad guys. I've been going it alone on all the missions. And I think the one thing that's taken me the longest to get used to is the combat, because it is it's a mix of Neo and Wo Long, and it is a little bit awkward to kind of learn. But once you do learn it, things get a lot easier. Just like any other Souls game, really. And I wouldn't even say this is a Souls game. I mean, it is a third-person action game where you do lose like XP when you die and stuff, and you have to go retrieve it and whatever. But it's not as hardcore as Neo. I would say it's even it's probably a little bit easier than Wo Long, honestly. And I thought that Wo Long was a fairly easy game myself. Especially because I kind of breezed through that one, especially towards like the second half of the game. Once you get past that horse boss, who the guy riding the horse, I felt like he was like the hardest challenge that the game has, and that was like less than halfway through the game, and then through the rest of the game, I was kind of breezing through it. So I do think that it's kind of it's kind of on the same level as Wo Long, maybe. I mean, obviously, different strokes for different folks, so if you do find it more difficult, that's a personal thing. I personally think that it's about the same difficulty as Wo Long, because now that I think about it, the combat does take a little bit of getting used to, and even now that I do have it down, I still mess up every so often and get my ass handed to me. So it's not like it's super easy or anything like that, but it's one of those games that it's more so for a general audience, I would say, and I don't know if that's a negative or a positive to most people. Personally, I think it's more of a positive because that means that more people can play and enjoy the games from this studio. I mean, Team Ninja has been making great games for a very long time now, and a lot of people are scared away from them because they have the word Souls like attached to them, or because they hear the horror stories, especially from myself about Neo 1. Neo 2 is obviously harder, I believe, people have said. But they're kind of known for their challenging games. So when a game like Wo Long comes out and it's still a Souls-like, but it's vastly easier than Neo, I think you start to get more people interested and more people playing it, especially when they put it on like Game Pass and stuff like that. And then now with this Rise of Ronin game, PlayStation picked it up for a reason. They picked it up because it's still a bit challenging, but it's also very accessible to a wider audience. And it also includes the difficulty modes as well. There's 3 different difficulty modes. One of them is a story mode where you just kind of want the story. You want to go through for the stories. The combat is easier. There's a middle one, which is what I chose, which is just like action, story, or balanced, and there's whatever. And then there's of course the harder difficulty, which puts a priority on the action, meaning that the action is going to be harder and more challenging as you go through the game. So far the story has been serviceable. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's good enough. I don't think that the story is the selling point of the game. I think that's just a nice addition to the game at this point, because the open world and the combat have really been what's been drawing me. And I unlocked. I did the whole like mission for getting the camera that you can use, and once I got the camera and I was allowed to go back, or I could go back to the city and turn in the mission, I just started doing stuff in the open world, doing the little outposts where the bandits have taken over, taking down bounties. There's like these powerful enemies in the world that you can take down for extra money, and you can turn them into the like sheriff in the city, which is pretty cool. There's plenty of landmarks to get to as well. You visit a landmark, you unlock codex entries, kind of, about the buildings. There's shrines to find, which give you XP boosts. There's challenges out in the open world for your ranged weapons. Like there's a rifle training, there's a pistol training, there's a archery training, horseback riding training, stuff like that. And then there's also banners to find as well to give you fast travel points. And the banners, when you sit down at a banner, all the XP that you've gotten from enemies gets converted into skill points and stuff like that. So it's also a good thing to stop at banners, because not only does it restock the enemies, it also saves all your progress up to that point. It also saves all your XP. It's kind of like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order or a Jedi Survivor in that way, where you kind of you have an XP bar that you fill, and then once you fill it, you can't lose the XP behind that. And then when you sit down at a location, it deposits all that XP into the banner, and it allows you to unlock new skills and stuff like that. Unlike Wo Long and Neo, XP isn't used to level up your stats per se. Like you still level up like your strength and dexterity and charisma and stuff like that. But it's done a bit differently. It's not just like putting points into a tree and saying, okay, I want more strength, so let's boost this strength up to 5, right? You unlock skills that do level up those different attributes, but you unlock skills along with them. So one of the first things you can get is like a jump attack, where you jump and then you throw your grapple hook at something, and it pushes you, and it really propels you forward to do a giant attack. There's also other ones for like holding more medicine and doing various other things as well. I'm not going to go through the entire list, but there's plenty. There's like 4 different categories to choose from. Each of them kind of have their own strengths and weaknesses for leveling them up. I've mostly been doing strength at this point, but I have been dipping my toe in the charisma a little bit, because it has things like persuasion and stuff in there, which could be kind of fun down the road. The horseback riding is fairly good. I mean, it's kind of standard if you played a game with horse riding in it, whether it be The Last of Us Part 2 or Ghost of Tsushima, the horse riding is fine. I've actually been not doing as much horse riding as you would think because there is a good amount of stuff in the world, and going from one point to the next point in the world is not super crazy that I feel like I need to use the horse for everything. Only when it's like over 200 meters away, that's when I pull out the horse and I start galloping towards there. And actually, the horse combat is pretty fun too. There hasn't been like a specific setting where I've needed to use the horse. Like, there's not enemies right now in the area I'm in that are on horseback, and I need to fight them on horseback. I've ran into maybe one, and it was in like a stealth area, so I kind of like I stealth killed them anyway. So it's like whatever. But I can see that's going to be kind of fun to use horseback combat in the game, like being able to shoot your rifle off of it and then swing on left and right of your horse, kind of like Elden Ring. It feels good. It does feel good. So it's not something that that I'm going to stray away from. I think I'll embrace it as I get to those points. And unlike Ghost of Tsushima, like horse combat is pretty feasible. I tried doing horse combat in Ghost of Tsushima. It wasn't like my favorite thing ever. I would rather get off the horse and fight enemies. But in this game, it feels like it feels like a feasible thing to do. And then also on top of having like those little squad mates that you can call, that you do missions for every so often, you can sit down in like in your house or whatever, the longhouse that you acquire. And you can actually talk to them, interact with them, and give them gifts to strengthen your bond with them, which will improve their stats. You can also form relationships with them, and if you want to, you can do a romantic relationship if you want to. So there's actually some dating sim elements in the game as well, I suppose. It's a surface level type thing for the most part as of right now. But yeah, you pretty much just talk to them, give them gifts, strengthen your bond by doing their missions as well. So that's something that's been around for a while, but it's fun to see it incorporated into a game like this where you don't expect that. Going into this game, they didn't really show like, you have teammates with you, and you have, you can sit down with them and talk. They didn't really show that stuff in the trailers that I watched. So it's a pleasant surprise to see all these different things kind of working on top of each other. On top of that, there's also the new gliding mechanic. You can pull out some para-wings and glide around for a limited amount of time, sort of like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild or something like that. It does make traversal really easy, breezy. You can also do assassinations from it as well, which is pretty cool. There's the grapple hook that I already mentioned a little bit before, but it allows you to grapple up to points and swing to points. It also gives you boosts while you're gliding and swimming if you unlock those things. It's also useful in combat. You can stagger enemies, pull them towards you, go, like I said before, jump and be propelled towards them. So there's a lot of versatility in that. And then on top of all that, there's the combat that I lightly touched upon earlier. All the different styles that you kind of want are there, the ones that are interesting. So you have your normal sword play with like the katana and stuff like that. There's also the dual swords, the odachi, oh wow, I'm blanking right now. There's like 6 or 7 or 8 combat styles, and I just unlocked the musket about an hour in after I stopped playing, and even though it doesn't do as much damage, I think it's the most fun to use. I think that it's definitely like quickly becoming my go-to weapon when I'm fighting enemies. Even though I still do have my odachi on my back, and I can switch to that if I want to. The musket has been just so much fun. Like, you can use it as a ranged weapon, and it has unlimited ammunition. And you can also, use it for, it has a bayonet on it, so you can use it for your sword gameplay as well. And I felt like the timing window for the parry was not as strict as the other weapons as well, so it does give you a little bit more leniency. I that's the way I feel like on it, but I guess that's maybe that's just a personal thing. I don't know. In terms of the combat, though, there's some things that have changed up about it. So there is like the stamina meter. Used to be called the ki meter. Now it's the stamina meter. And essentially, it's kind of like Sekiro, where you try and whittle down the opponent's stamina. And then once they go into like a state of exhaustion, you can do a big attack on them. And then their stamina meter fills back up, and you go for round 2, or you just fight them off a little bit more. Sometimes the finishing move is enough, especially on like the weaker enemies. But there are some enemies who are like stronger. They have more health. They're not able to be one hit killed from behind. And those are the enemies that actually, once you defeat them, they don't spawn back. And when you do defeat them, they demoralize the rest of the enemies in the area. So it kind of is a little bit like the banner system, where the more banners you put up in Wolong, the lower level the main boss of the area is going to be. It's kind of like that, except when you put up a banner, you just respawn there, but you do take down the enemy's levels when you take out a big enemy. So it's kind of there, but it's also a little bit different, just a little bit different. The world itself is great. I think that the rendering distance is a bit weak in my opinion, especially for the PS5. And I could see myself playing this on PC and it looking better. But I think that I mean, the graphics are good. I was gonna say fine, but they are good. Especially with the close-up stuff, like your character model. Just the area around you. The cats in the game, the dogs in the game look pretty good. But yeah, the render distance is a bit weak, especially when you're flying or gliding with the paraglider. I feel like the draw distance is good, but the render distance is it's not there. The trees look hexagonal and sharp, and there's the defined details aren't there, which is like sure, but like the details aren't there at all. Like it's a basic look at the zone around you for the most part, and it does take you out of the experience a little bit, especially when you're gliding and you just see the trees, and they're like they're like X's with the branches sticking out. They're like X's, and of course when you get closer to them, they morph into real trees. Same thing with like the grass. As you're walking towards something, grass will be more clear and stuff like that. It's just one of those things that I feel like maybe they can fix with a patch. And I hope that they do, because it is something that does take you out of the game, and I think it does. I mean, it is a bit of a point of criticism there as well. The rest of the open world is great, though. Finding the random encounters and walking along the trails and stuff like that, it's all very immersive. It's just when you get to an area where you can see far away, like when you're gliding or on top of a mountain, it does take you out of it a little bit to look out and just see like all these little polygon trees. It's kind of weird. So, yes, I think that's about it that I have to talk about for right now. I am really enjoying the game. I only have a few minor criticisms about the game so far, but I am really enjoying the game. I like the direction that Team Ninja took this one, even though I would like it to be maybe a little bit more, visually stunning, I guess you could say. I mean, this is a very ambitious game for them to make. They've been, I just want to say this, like, to anyone who's like shitting on the game. I mean, look, it is published by PlayStation, but it's developed by a smaller studio. Team Ninja, they are veterans of the space, but they are still, they're still pretty much an indie studio, and this is a very ambitious game. I appreciate everything that they did with it, and so far I'm very much enjoying it. There are points that could use improvement, like the overall visuals when you're draw distance and stuff like that. Also, I think the story maybe could have been a bit more tight knit so far. But other than that, I'm really enjoying the combat. I'm really enjoying exploring the world, and I'm really enjoying the other aspects of the game, like squatting up and stuff like that. So I do recommend it, especially if you're a fan of Ghost of Tsushima, but you felt that Ghost of Tsushima was maybe too easy, because this one still has a bit of challenge in it, especially with some of the enemy configurations you can get later on. And I think that it's going to continuously get a bit more difficult as you go. So I think that I'm going to be very satisfied in that department towards the end as well. And and the boss fights have been pretty good too. They're not going to be anything crazy like Wolong or Neo. But I think the boss fights have been really, really good. One of the first boss fights you do, not the ship captain Matthew Perry, but the but like the leader of the ninja clan you're in was very good. It was like it had just the right amount of moves and randomness to it, and timing and stuff like that. It was a very good boss fight, and yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes from here. I'm definitely going to play more today, and of course I'm going to play more until I get to the end of the game. But yeah, I'm very, very excited, very interested in playing more of this, and I'm very happy right now with the way that the game came out. It has been one of my most anticipated games for the past year, and I know it's a lot of people's most anticipated games. This one, I really do feel like I mean, there's some critics out there who are giving this game way too low of a score, 6s and 5s out of 10, and I just feel like you gotta play this one for yourself, because I feel like this one is gonna be a bit divisive. Like if you put a lot of weight into story or into visuals, it's definitely not gonna be the best experience. But if you do love combat and you like a good, well built open world, then it's gonna strive for me. It does a lot of things. It does a lot of things that I really like, and that's why I would give it a recommendation. But obviously, I'm just one person, and I have my own opinions. So if you do want to check out some other things, just know that I do feel like some publications are maybe being a bit too harsh on this one with their ratings. Because I was reading one on whatchamacall. I don't remember the name of the website. And they had all these positive things to say, and then towards the end they were like, oh yeah, and the visuals are not as good as other games on the PS5 or even the PS4 at times, and blah 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 blah. And they gave it a 6, and I'm like, the whole review was positive, and you give it a 6? It just doesn't make sense sometimes. And other, once again, I'm just one person, but I do feel like sometimes video game review companies will try and hit the trend early, a trend, and see what people are kind of contested about, and they will rate appropriately to the way that the general audience is reacting. That way they don't get shit on. But it's like, who cares? If you like a game, just give it a positive score. It doesn't have to be, it's not a 10 out of 10, but I mean, for me personally right now it's like an 8, a high 8, so take that with what you will. All right, I've also been playing a game called Crimson. This is the game I talked about a couple weeks ago. It's kind of like this crazy platformer that has very intense visuals and a very intense soundtrack, made by the same people who did Thumper. And yeah, Crimson is the same amount of stress as Thumper, I would say, especially when the music starts kicking up. It is a very brutal platformer, and by brutal I mean very challenging, and also visually pretty brutal. This is a game that you're not going to see too many of them, because it is pretty intense in terms of like visual flair and music and stuff like that, but it is memorable. It is very, very memorable. This is going to be a game that sticks with you after you play it. So they call it a platform, like a hardcore platformer, rhythm game almost, because the music in the background is like this industrial metal. If you don't know what industrial metal is, it's a very like, I keep using the word, but it's like a brutal, harsh sounding, very metallic. It does have like elements of like metallic. It sounds like machinery working almost, right? And even though there's no vocals to the songs, it still very much encompasses that industrial metal kind of genre, and maybe some grimecore in there as well, with some of like the EDM beats put in there and EDM stuff put in there. So it's one of those things that's it's a very interesting soundtrack, and playing along with it, you really start to get into it. You feel it, and one of the things that I like the most about this game is the utilization of the controller, because the controller does different rumble effects based on the song and what's playing. And on the PS5, I really think that this elevates the experience a lot. And this is not just me being like a fanboy of PlayStation. I like all my consoles equally, okay? But playing it on the PlayStation with a DualSense controller is actually a really, really interesting time. When I feel like if I played this on PC or on Xbox or Nintendo, I'm sorry, I don't feel like it would have the same effect. I think the PS5 controller definitely elevates this one because the rumble inside of it is, it's just so it's so meticulously designed to go along with the beat and what you're doing in the game. It's very cool. It's very cool. Let me just say that. So you play as this like little meat ball, and I would actually say this game is very similar to Super Meat Boy in a way where the platforming, it's a bit slippery, but it's very graceful, right? So you play as this little ball, and you have like a double jump, you can do wall jumps and stuff like that, and you're trying to go from point A to point B. And in the middle of point A to point B, there's this little flame you need to pick up and bring it to like the pentagram. And then once you get to the pentagram, the level ends and you move on to the next one. And every single level kind of builds up on top of what you just did. So the first level in the game is basic platforming, and then the second level of the game adds like the little spikes that you could die on. They grow and shrink. And then the next level has like rotating spike platforms that you need to dodge. And then the next level has rotating platforms and rotating spiked platforms. And then the next level is like, okay, here's the growing and shrinking spike blocks, but now there's growing and shrinking regular blocks, and there's also spinning blocks, and it starts to build and build and build, and then you get to a pseudo boss fight. The first one is just running away from like this giant skull that can kill you at any moment. The second boss fight was much more interesting, in my opinion, where there's like this eyeball chasing around that shoots like asteroids at you, almost meteors, and every time you hit it with like this attack that goes to the beat, it breaks apart into more eyeballs, and so you can have a bunch of eyeballs flying around from hitting them, and I thought that was really interesting. The third one had like a spiky eyeball following you around, and you had to dodge saw blades going through the level, and you had to go like to one side, back to the other side, and there was, it changed up every time you got a new flame. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting. It's very cool. I'm very much enjoying the game. I think it's a blast. It really fucking is, and it's just so intense too at times. Like, I didn't want to put the game down, but I got to the I got halfway through the second world, and I said I gotta take a break because this is pretty intense. It's pretty intense. And of course, Rise of the Ronin came out, so then I've taken a break from it for a little bit. But all in all, Crimson has just been like this really, really solid experience. It's a really solid platformer. It's got a lot of cool stuff in there. It's very intense. It's very visually stunning, I guess I would use the word. It's very visually visceral. And if you haven't checked it out, check out Krimson with a K. Krimson. It's very good. It's very, very good. And I just played it on the PS5 as opposed to like Steam or something like that. I feel like the controller really does add into the effect of the game, really get you into it. And if you liked Thumper in the past, which is like another rhythm game that they came out with that's a very intense and visually visceral experience, this one will be right up your alley. It's different than Thumper, but it's different in a good way where instead of it being like a left-right, brutal rhythm game, it's now a brutal platformer game. So there you go. The game does have checkpoints, so it is a little bit forgiving here and there, but for the most part, you go through a section that's really tough. You're gonna die like 50 times sometimes, and you just gotta keep pushing forward. But yeah, very good. I do recommend this one wholeheartedly. I think that it's gonna be another one of those like sleeper games that people kind of gloss over throughout the year. Another game that I've been playing is Bears in Space. I've only played a couple hours of it as of right now, but it is a very fun first-person boomer shooter, which has like a sci-fi aesthetic. It's like an old-school sci-fi aesthetic, like from like the 60s or something like that, maybe even like earlier. Everything's just kind of like very colorful. Everything pops. It's got a very nice animation style to it, and like the robots and stuff like that, they're all like they kind of look like robots from like the old days, back in like the Jetsons or whatever, and it's a very fun game, but it's also got some comedic elements to it. And when when the jokes land, they hit. You know, like there's some jokes that fall flat a little bit, I think, but for the most part, I think the game is funny. And I think that it does a great job with what it's set up, what it sets up at the beginning, which is essentially you're playing as like this veteran who's put onto like a prison ship, and the prison ship gets attacked by a bear armada because you're hauling a bunch of bear fugitives to a jail, and there's one bear in particular that's on the bridge, and the two captains or whatever are like, we don't know what to do, and then you walk over to a button and you press it, and then you warp speed to a different solar, different universe or something like that, and the bear and you combine DNA, so now you're like morphed together like Squidward at the end of that one SpongeBob episode. So essentially, you have like a bear melee attack, and you can use like the bear ability to like grow big and start doing massive damage with melee attacks. But then you also have all the guns along with it. So you have like a basic pistol, you have a submachine gun, you have a shotgun type weapon. Later on, you can get like this bubble bottle that like rusts enemies and slows them down, which I thought was kind of like, it's kind of useless, but it's also like kind of funny. It's also got a really great animation for when the robots are getting rusted. It's actually very well done. I mean, this game is like what, $20 on Steam right now. It is an absolute steal. I mean, it's so well done. It's very polished. It's got a lot of fun to it. It's got like these goofy cutscenes that they're like in game, and they're really well done. I mean, it's one of those games that's just, it's a very for the price tag, it's very much worth it. Like just like even the just try it out for a little bit, and maybe whatever. It's just one of those things that it's a very smooth experience. They did a great job with it. There's secrets to find that are also pretty funny. Like there's like this little shootout area, and then you get a collectible in the game. There was like this murder mystery you had to do at one point, and you had to pick who was the murderer. And at the end of it, they were like, let's just be safe, and they just killed them all. Like it was very funny. So it's one of those games that it's kind of like High on Life a little bit, except good. I personally did not enjoy High on Life. I think the gameplay loop was abysmal. I thought the jokes were pretty bad in that one. Especially later on when it just starts to become irritating. And I felt like the game dragged on too much. Bears in Space seems to be going at a pretty brisk pace. The jokes are still landing in like the fourth mission. The combat is fleshing out, and there's more guns that you can acquire that I haven't gotten yet. And I just think that's a really good time. So in terms of like boomer shooters that have come out this year, it's definitely one that's going to be high on my list in terms of boomer shooters. I think it does a lot right, and I think that a lot of people will enjoy it if they choose to purchase it. For a boomer shooter, it's also got a lot of bullet hell to it as well. Like it's kind of like Returnal in a way, where like the shots fired by the enemies are big, so you have to like actually dodge around them. And they're also like vast. There's a lot of them, so it is very much like boomer shooter bullet hell. And there's even sections where you're in your ship and you're flying in space, and you gotta dodge bullets and shoot the starships and stuff like that. So it's a mix between a boomer shooter and a bullet hell, kind of like how Returnal was a mix between like a roguelite and a bullet hell as well. So if that sounds interesting to you, and you like what you see when you look at the graphics, like the graphics are very cartoonish. They're very they kind of remind me of like Ratchet and Clank or something like that, So if that sounds interesting to you, check out Bears in Space. I think right now it's on Steam for sure. I don't know if it's on other platforms, but if you haven't yet, I recommend checking it out. It's a pretty dang good game so far. Speaking of dang good games, I recently gave up on the Classic Collection. Now, the reason why I say dang good games is because the base games inside of the Battlefront Classic Collection are good. Okay, and that's what really keeps you going through the glitches and the hard times that this game, that whatever Aspire did to mess it up. And like I said, the base games are great. Battlefront 1 and 2 are great games. You play them in the collection, they feel fine, but little things will start creeping in, and you'll wonder what happened to this collection, right? We finished the campaign, and I thought that like they did a fine job with the campaign. I talked about other like things last week that irked me about that, but for the most part, the campaigns on both of them are fine. You know, I think that the snap to auto aim is a bit too egregious in the first game, and there's some bizarre things that they did that I think they've already kind of updated. But the real place that this is truly scuffed is the multiplayer. And I don't know how long it's going to take for them to fix this, but there's just so many things that when we were playing on the PS4, we were having some trouble with like the sound cutting out, with shots not counting, and stuff like that. And then I moved over to the PC version because I was like, oh, let's try this on PC. Maybe they did push a update to the PC version, so let's see. And no, yeah, shots weren't counting. Just lag abundant all over the place. We were in a server with like 3 other people, and just lag everywhere. Rubber banding, stuff like that. So it was very frustrating. And what I did is I installed the original version of Battlefront 2 because the servers are back online for that. I jumped into a game and I started playing the space combat. It was fine. Everything worked perfectly. I would say the visuals even look maybe a little bit more cleaner on the original version on the PC. And then we did a ground combat mission online, and that also worked fine. I had no problems. So that really showed to me that they fumbled the Classic Collection so badly that I got a refund on PC because you can't. I only played an hour on the PC. So sorry, Greedy Waffles. We're not going to be playing together on the Classic Collection on PC. We can still play the original Battlefront 2. It still works. But on the PS4, obviously, you can't do refunds. But maybe I'll check it out again in the future on the PS4 or PS5 and see if they actually do anything to fix it. But yeah, I just for a game, everyone was very excited to replay this or maybe play it for the first time, and to have it come out in such a state that it's in is very disappointing, I would say. And even though the base games are great, the collection itself is not good. They need to improve it a lot. They've released a broken game, a game that used AI, a game that didn't credit modders who allegedly had their code and stuff put into the actual release of the game. I believe the model for Asajj Ventress, if I remember correctly from the article I was reading, was actually from a modder who put her into like the PC version of Battlefront 2 that did not have Asajj Ventress. So it's just scummy stuff like that that's really bringing it down. And at this point, I don't know if Asper will be able to. I don't know if they'll be able to come back from this. I think that people are going to be very skeptical of the next game they release. And like I said, though, Asper's worked on plenty of other HD re-releases of Star Wars games. They did the Pod Racer games, Republic Commando, the Jedi Outcast 1 and 2, Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. They did all these games and they released them, and I think they also did like a Force Awakens one as well. And all those seem to be like received genuinely well. Like they're pretty much straight up ports, but nothing's wrong with them. Nothing game breaking is wrong with them. I've played the Pod Racer game; it feels great. I played the Republic Commando on PS4. It works well. There's not many things that you can say because it's like, okay, the base game when it came out originally is great, and now this version of the game works well. You can't say that about the Battlefront Classic Collection. And I don't know why they chose the Battlefront Collection to be the one that they fuck up, but it's pretty egregious the issues that I have with this game and other people have found with the game as well. So in the end, I would still give it like a 3 or a 2.5 because the base games are good and they play fine. It's just there's so much else wrong with the game that I can't really give it a positive review. And this in terms of the collection, there's just too many things that need addressed and fixed, and the launch has been abysmal. And they might fix it down the road. But I'm not willing to. I'm not willing to wait that long for a game that came out in 2006 to be fixed in 2024. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Maybe they needed more time, or maybe they really thought that this was going to be an easy flip, make their money, and run. Yeah, it's just one of those things. I don't get it. I don't understand. But if you can't play the Battlefront games in any other way, then yeah, sure, this is a good place to start. Because the base games are still good. It's just there's a lot of trouble with this game in terms of just overall performance and stuff like that. So definitely, I would wait for a sale on it. I mean, it's like $30, so wait for a sale. I would say, especially if you're getting on PC, because I feel like the PC version is just more buggy in terms of the multiplayer. So there you go. All right, let's move on to some games that I've been playing on my own time. Starting off with Blast Corps. Recently finished this, man, I mean, maybe it's because I was using a Switch controller and not the N64 controller, but that dump truck, I was having such a hard time getting that vehicle down, and they kind of force you to get good with the truck because you use it for like the last 5 missions of the game, it felt like. And that does include the rocket ship or the shuttle landing mission. But yeah, it's just one of those things that I was getting really frustrated with it, and I think that was kind of maybe clouding my brain a little bit, because like I was doing that one mission where you had to like clear the house from the railroad tracks, and I was just like, I was not getting anywhere, and I thought I was going to give up, but I did get a lucky run where I just kind of like everything clicked with me for like a couple minutes, and I got it done, which was satisfying. But it's also like, oh, after 30 minutes of hardcore yelling at my screen because the dump truck sucks so much, I really didn't want to play anymore. So I saw the credits, and I did that final like rocket ship mission, and I was like, oh, you can go to the moon? Fuck that, I'm done, and I turned it off. So. Maybe I'll get back to it. Maybe not. Probably not. Honestly, I had too much trouble with the game personally. And like I said, it could be because I was using the Switch controller. Maybe the Switch controller is not the best way to play this game. But for me personally, I mean, it was like one of the hardest things I ever had to do was trying to drive this dump truck, which is why I gave it like a 5 out of 5 difficulty rating, because that shit was bizarre. I could not get it to work right now. Maybe I did just need to take a step back and, come back to it, and maybe it would have been better. I don't know, but at this point, I'm just kind of tired of seeing this game. I'll be honest. But props to Callus, who was able to get through the levels a lot easier than me. So he is definitely the superior Blast Corps player. But as for me, I gave it a 2.5 out of 5. I mean, yeah, it probably would have been higher if those last like 5 or so missions didn't kick my ass. But I was not having a great time by the end of it, so that's why it's a little bit lower of a rating than you might expect. I also played and finished Katamari Damacy Reroll. I know I've recently finished Katamari Damacy on its own, but I had the Reroll version of the game, so I said, why not play that? I love this game so much, why not play it? And yes, the visuals are better, but the base game plays the same, so I gave it the same score. But I would say, like, if you're looking to play Katamari Damacy, the reroll version is probably the way to go, just because the visuals are more clear, which makes things a little bit easier to, makes it a little bit easier to get around the levels and stuff like that. The original version of the game is great, but the reroll version is definitely the one that, if you're in 2024 wanting to play Katamari Damacy, it's probably going to be the way that you're going to play it, and I think it's really good. I gave it the same score because I still have the same issues with Katamari Damacy, where like the camera just won't work with you for some reason, and sometimes you just got to get stuck on random things. But for the most part, it's a great game. I really love it myself. I think it's probably one of my favorite games now. And I am excited to play more Katamari games, so maybe Katamari Damacy will be lowered in my favorite games list. But as of right now, I definitely think that's a great experience. I love the music, I love the visuals, I love the gameplay. Besides from like the turning, and I think that it just all culminates in just a really fantastic ending sequence, and I really enjoy that. And yes, I did actually get the We Love Katamari game, the reroll game, recently, and I also ordered the Xbox 360 exclusive Beautiful Katamari as well to play. So I am becoming a Katamari head, I suppose. And then finally, I finally finished Neo. I know I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but yes, I finally finished Neo. This is the third attempt of trying to beat the game, and third time's the charm. The game started to click with me kind of once I started using the Odachi and learning the real mechanics of the game, because when I originally played it the first like two times, I was just playing it like Dark Souls or something like that. You know, I was very much not playing it in the right way. But once I kind of learned like, okay, it's all about like managing your ki and getting and ki reduction on the enemies, and not so much like hard hitting weapons. That's when it really started to click with me. And once I also learned that like kind of like Rise of the Ronin, how like your outfit affects, you know, if you have a full set of armor, it affects things way more than having better armor on that has better stats, you know. So once that all came to a fold, I definitely feel like it started to work with me a bit more. I didn't rage as much, you know. I mean, I still had my I wouldn't even call it rage really. I would just call it frustration. There are some times that this game got really frustrating. The Toad boss still kicked my ass so many times, and you have to fight him. You don't have to, but I fought him twice. And it's just one of those things that like, why did I put myself through that? I think the other thing too that's kind of annoying is they have this boss. He's like one of the first bosses you fight. He's like this big demon. He's got like these wrecking balls that he has wrapped around his wrist like Kratos. And he shows up so often in the game. It's not even funny. Like, if he was just a normal enemy, that'd be something else. But he is like a boss. He has a health bar. He has really high damage. You know, it's just one of those things that's like, wow, by the time you're done with this game, you've fought him at least 20 times, I feel like. And yeah, sure, it gets easier as you go, but still, if you get hit once sometimes, you're just done for. So it's one of those things that's like, it's kind of annoying, kind of frustrating here and there. The final stream that we did for the game, where I did like the last like 5 missions in a row, I actually did really well. I don't think I really raged at all until that final mission that's after the credits roll. And you know, I was so relieved to see the credits and be like, "Oh my god, it's over! I did it!" And then for there to be one last mission, I was already kind of elevated in my frustration. And then when you had to fight like a room full of clones of the main villain, and then you had to actually fight the main villain itself, I did find myself raising my voice a few times, especially because all like that last mission has, you know, the last like bit to that mission has a bunch of like one hit kill enemies who can like one hit kill you if you're damaged a little bit, they'll one hit kill you, you know, and it's a very frustrating by the end of it. But also I will say when I started using my living weapon more, that's also when the game became a bit easier. I was saving my living weapon for the boss, but it's like, well, your living weapon recharges fast because you're hitting enemies and stuff like that. So I would just like to say thank you to the chat, especially there's one person in chat who helped me a lot, which was Topux. Even though he didn't always give the most constructive criticisms, he did help me a lot in the chat, so I would like to thank him. And everyone else who came by to show support while I was playing the game, I also appreciate that too, because this has been a long time coming. It's been a game that's been hung around my shoulders like an anchor for so long, because I genuinely was enjoying the game, but I felt like I could never get through it because of the stupid Toad boss. And once I beat that, the game started to get better. And because up until that point, like, it's a good game, but I was really nervous about the freaking Toad boss. I guess I also got a lot of frustration from that Shiva boss as well. So, but you know, like I said, once I really sat down and learned what we had to do, that's when the game started to become better. And I also unlocked like a ninjutsu that was like a huge key damaging move, which also I think that kind of was also my crutch going through the game as well, because you like hit the enemy with the back of your Odachi, and it does like I mean, I feel like it does like 50% key damage to a normal enemy. So like I had a meta down towards the end of the game. So I'm very happy that I finally finished it. I'm not planning on doing the DLC right now. Maybe I will eventually, but as of right now, I'm kind of spent on it, kind of like how I'm spent on Blast Corps, and I don't want to hear anyone say, "Oh, you got to go through the game again to get the true ending on Neo or Armored Core for that matter," because both these games were exceptionally difficult. I don't think I gave Neo a 5 out of 5 difficulty. I give it a 4.5 out of 5 because I do feel like the last couple of boss fights in the game were piss easy at times, except for the final like after credits one. But I did a couple of those other boss fights in like 1 or 2 goes, and by the end of the game, you kind of want it to be a bit more difficult instead of the beginning being difficult. But I guess once you build up your character, it is gradually easier. So. Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, Neo, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think it's worth playing if you're a Souls fan. A bit frustrating at times, but all in all, would I play it again? Yeah, I think I would, which is surprising for me to say since I was very much over it a couple of times. So, there you go. All right, let's move on to what's in the news. All right, Dragon's Dogma 2 launched this past week. It's gotten very high reviews. People saying that's a very good RPG and it builds upon what the first game set up and blah 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 blah. The one thing that people are not happy about is the amount of microtransactions on the Steam version. Right now, there's no PS5 or Xbox microtransactions. I'm sure they'll be added in eventually. But as of right now, the Steam version of the game has a bunch of like resources or something that you can buy with real money, ranging from about $1 to about $3. One of these optional purchases includes the Rift Crystals, which are a in-game currency used to hire pawns and purchase items. Another one called Port Crystals can be used to create fast travel points, and I'm sure there's like a limited number in the game itself, so buying more kind of, I don't know, maybe that would break the game. I mean, actually using real money to buy them maybe would break the game a little bit. Like I said, though, both of these things can be found in the game, but I think they're in like limited quantities or they're rare stuff to find. So having the ability to just buy stuff is a bit scummy. It does feel like, I mean, it's a single player game, but it practically feels like pay to win almost in a way. And there's other stuff as well. If I pull up the Steam version, I'll be able to give you a good list. But there was quite like a long list of stuff that I saw when I just glanced at it earlier. Dragon's Dogma 2 here. Yes, I am of age to play an M-rated game. Oh yeah, there's a good amount of stuff here. There's an Explorer's Camping Kit, which I'm pretty sure that came with like I think that was like a pre-order bonus or something like that. The music and sound collection, whatever, that's fine. Harp snare smoke beacons. This is a scent-emitting device to entice harpies. Harpies in range will flock to your position. A heartfelt pendant, which is a thoughtful gift. You can buy these to give to your allies to further deepen your relationship with them. Ambivalent rift incense. You can change pawn inclinations. Obtain an item that will change your pawn's inclination once to a random one. These powdered rift crystals can be used by your main pawn while camping and burnt as incense. Makeshift Gale Key. Obtain a key to the Gale, a relatively crude make. It will break after a single use. I think that's kind of like the Elden Ring, like keys that you had to use there, sword keys. Art of Metamorphosis, character editor. Obtain an item that allows the Arisen to edit their own appearance or the appearance of a pawn. You have to pay $2 for that to edit the appearance of your pawn after making that. That's pretty fucking crazy. I already talked about the Port Crystal, which is also another $3 one. Wakestone A, B, C, D, and E are all worth $1. You'll earn one Wakestone. It has a miraculous magic formed of wake shards. It holds the power to restore the dead to life. And there's for some reason there's a couple different versions of that. They all look to do about the same thing. And then there's also 500 to 2,500 Rift crystals, which are the in-game currency I talked about before. So, yeah, I mean, it's a bit egregious. I think even people who gave this a very high score would say, like, yeah, that's a pretty scummy thing to do, is to limit the quantities of these things in the game that you get and then sell them for. I mean, honestly, not a lot of money, but still some money, and especially if you want to buy like multiple. I mean, 3 times 10 is $30. So, plus tax, of course. Yeah, not the best thing ever in my opinion. And if they're planning on adding this stuff to the PlayStation Xbox version, that's just it stays the same amount of scummy, but more people have access to it, so it's a little bit extra. Let me know what you think about these DLC, I guess DLC microtransaction charges in the comments below. Were you able to get your hands on a PDP Riftmaster wireless guitar controller? The pre-orders went live this past week and they sold out in a matter of minutes. The $130 Riftmaster peripheral went live at about 10 a.m. on Thursday, or maybe even Friday. Yeah, I think it was Friday, and immediately sold out. $130 a pop. Now, that is a pretty pricey guitar controller, but it might be worth it. A lot of people have said that the controller is very nice quality. I've been watching Asai, who is a Guitar Hero player. He's using it a lot. This can be used for both Rock Band 4 and Fortnite Festival. I would probably use it for Rock Band 4 myself because I do have a lot of songs on Rock Band 4 on the PS4. So I would probably get the PlayStation version, but there's also an Xbox version as well. Both of them work with Bluetooth, so they can hook up to your computer as well to play things like Clone Hero. The senior director of product marketing, named Michael Lai, announced the news in a press release saying that the rhythm action gaming is an experience more than a renaissance. It is being redefined. Every aspect of the Riftmaster design is informed by PDP's rich heritage in rhythm-based gaming, including a nod to the past with backwards compatibility. We cannot wait for fans to have their first jam section. So when it officially releases or ships in April, we'll start to see how people feel about the game in more of a wider scale. But as of right now, it looks like it's getting favorable reviews from people who have tested it out. Has 36 hours of battery life, which is pretty nice. We'll see how everyone feels when they officially get it in April. Overwatch 2 has had some new developments recently that I thought were big enough for me to talk about them. The PvE version of Overwatch has officially been canceled. It was rumored to be canceled before, or maybe like announced to be winding down. But now it is officially gone like the wind. The paid PvE content from last year sold so poorly that they completely removed any future PvE content, which I don't even remember the PvE paid content coming out last year. But there's no longer plans to finish the remaining PvE combat, with the team now doubling down on competitive PvP. The executive producer admitted to the Overwatch team that they were going to be unable to deliver on the original version for PvE, which was originally showcased in 2019. So it's not in production anymore. I do think that more people play this game for the multiplayer anyway, so it's not like a huge loss, but it is a promise that has been broken by the developers of this game. I played a bit of Overwatch 2 back when it first came out. They started to push updates that really, I personally think, broke the balancing of the game. Characters who were good were now bad. Characters who were bad were now really good. I don't understand, like, the balancing aspect of it is obviously a tightrope to walk, but the original version of Overwatch 2 I felt I mean, I personally felt that it was good. I mean, but then they updated it more and more seasons came out, and whatever. In some good news for Overwatch 2, though, all the heroes have been freed from Battle Pass unlocks. You can now play as every single character without paying money or waiting for them to unlock, which was a big controversy back when the game released. You couldn't play as certain characters, even though you played with them in the original game. The new hero venture will be available immediately for all players when Season 10 starts next month, with the only requirement being the newcomers must complete the first-time user experience tutorial. Woo! They also revealed that a new Clash mode will have a trial at the start of Season 10 with a map named Hanaoka. And then Season 11 will introduce a new Runa Sapi map for push mode, as well as a reworked Coliseum map. In a blog post, they said, "We've been listening to your feedback, and we are working on significant updates for these maps, so letting us know what other maps you would like us to work on in the future." Season 10 will also add the Mystic Shop, which will allow you to directly purchase mythic skins once they're 2 seasons old. You'll also be able to work towards past and current seasonal Mystic hero skins as you progress through the Premium Battle Pass. You get to decide how far into the Mythic skin you would like to build. Blah, 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 blah. Currently, the premium currency coins will be rewarded on both free and paid tracks now of the Battle Pass. So you get 600 coins for free per season if you just play the game without buying it, which is a good thing. So yeah, I don't know if they'll be able to get the reputation of Overwatch back. I think that it's kind of been tarnished a little bit, but I think these are, I mean, at least the free currency in the free version of the Battle Pass is a good start. But yeah, we'll have to see what the future holds for the game. And also, like, opening up all the characters for free is also a nice thing as well. So you can play as Tracer, you can play as Bastion, you can play as whoever you want. So that is nice, especially if you have a crush on one of the characters. But anyway, that's that. If you are playing Overwatch 2 still, and you've already paid for the character unlocks, I think you're kind of screwed, but maybe they'll do some sort of incentive. Maybe they'll give you some premium currency. I don't know. Okay, Thunderful, the publisher behind games like SteamWorld Build, SteamWorld Quest, Lego Brick Tales, etc., are continuing their distribution agreement with Nintendo, meaning that their games are going to be coming to Nintendo consoles for the near future. Instead of the agreement ending on the 31st of March 2024, they've extended it to 2027, which is about 2 years. The CEO of Thunderful Group said, "Thunderful's unique relationship with Nintendo stretches back to the early 1980s, when our subsidiary Bergsala started distributing Nintendo's fantastic products to consumers across the Nordics and the Baltics. We're exceedingly proud of this long-lasting partnership and look forward to many years of continued close collaboration with Nintendo." Which is kind of interesting. If that is, I mean, that is obviously true, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, I just thought I would mention this because it is a pretty interesting little side bit here, but there you go. All right. The people behind the Dark Forces remaster, Night Dive Studios, a long time ago, about 5 years ago, they asked Disney and their publisher to remaster the Dark Forces game, and it worked. They got funded, and they were able to make the game a reality. Now, in the same vein of things, the development studio wants to remake a game called No One Lives Forever, which is a 60s spy espionage type game. That is a cult classic. I've watched a couple videos about it. It seems pretty cool. I believe there was a re-release that was botched, maybe, or maybe it was the PS2 version was botched, but the PC version was really, really good. So I would think they would use the PC version for the template. But yeah, essentially you play as this female groovy spy, and you do stealth stuff and first-person shooter stuff as well. which I think would be a good idea, seeing as Dark Forces Remaster is high quality. Did they add like new things to the game or whatever? No, they kept the core of the game intact, which is what I liked about that, is that they kept the game as core intact. They only tweaked a few minor things, and they upscaled the visuals by hand, which is what I like. And if they do the same thing for No One Lives Forever, I think that'll also work out pretty well. So we'll see if this gamble works out for them. But as of right now, there's no real confirmation that they're going to be doing it. They just want to do it really, really badly. So we'll see if it actually happens. Night Dive Studios, we're all counting on you. Striking Distance Studios has announced that they are doing a sort of spin-off project called Project Birdseye. It is a top-down shooter where you fight pretty much in like a prison, like the Callisto Protocol. You're pretty much fighting mutants and stuff like that with guns and stuff. It kind of reminds me of the original the Helldivers game, in a way where it's like, yeah, it's kind of like a hardcore top-down shooter. I think it's like a roguelite as well, if I'm not mistaken. Also has like elements of Fury to it as well, kind of interestingly enough. I mean, this looks it looks pretty stylized. I don't know how good this is going to be. There's no release date or anything like that. They're just kind of working on it in the background here. So it's definitely a far cry from what they did with the Callisto Protocol. I mean, the graphics aren't photorealistic, and they're more cartoony and cell shaded kind of comic book style, almost like what was that game that came out last year? Wow, I am blanking. It was the rhythm game that what the hell is wrong with my brain right now? Hi-Fi Rush. Wow, I don't know what happened there. It kind of yeah. Anyway, if you want to check out the trailer for that, it's on Striking Distance's Studio's YouTube channel. It looks fine. I want to see more about it. And once again, there's no release date or anything like that, but once again, it's a much different than what they were working on before. The game Age of Booty from Capcom is going to be delisted on Xbox next week. So on March 28th, coming up soon, this Xbox 360 strategy game will be taken off of the servers for good. This is a game that I believe was exclusive to Xbox Arcade, published by Capcom. Developed by Certain Affinity. It also released on PlayStation 3 and PC, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if those versions are going to stay up, but this game was originally released in 2008. Like I said, it's like a strategy game. You play as like pirates and pirate ships and stuff like that. But the game will officially be delisted from the store. If you buy the game before March 28th, right now it's on sale for $1. So I guess that's a pretty good deal to just buy a game that's going to not be available anymore. You can do that. But it's sad to see games go. I mean, especially, I don't think this got a physical edition, so once this is gone from servers, it's going to be like gone, I think. So that's kind of sad as well. But it's kind of hard. Also, like, if the game isn't available in your region, it's also pretty brutal as well. So yeah. Okay, let's move over to the next part of the show, which is what's coming soon. Okay, this started off this week. They revealed Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra. This is a game coming from Amy Hennig. It will be out in 2025. So this is the same creator as the Uncharted series. You can definitely tell there's some inspiration there, definitely with how the game cinematics look and how they seem to be setting up this game. This is going to tell the tale of the young Captain Rogers fighting alongside Azuri, who is T'Challa's grandfather, the Black Panther from the Black Panther movie that came out. And then there's going to be two other soldiers, I guess, to play as. One of them is Gabriel Jones, who is a United States soldier and a member of the Howling Commandos. and also a Wakandan spy in occupied Paris named Nanali. You're going to be fighting. I guess this is like it is a single player game, so it's not like you get to control every character at the same time or with multiplayer. But essentially, you play as one of the 4 characters throughout the story, going through their I guess their storylines, and then maybe they'll intersect by the end of it. But essentially, the press release says, in the chaos of war, worlds collide. Skydance's new media and Marvel Games share an original story where an ensemble of 4 heroes must overcome their differences and form an uneasy alliance to confront their common enemy. Which sounds about right. I think the game visually looks great. Now, this could just be cutscenes and cinematics. I don't even know if they actually, because you're supposed to say if they are in game or not. Something tells me this is just like a cinematic trailer, so it's not like going to be representative of what the game's going to look like fully. But maybe if they get close to this, it'll look really good. What they showed off, it shows like Captain Rogers doing his Captain America thing, using his shield to beat people up with his fists. T'Challa, the Black Panther, not T'Challa, Azuri, the Black Panther of the World War II era, is seen. He's kind of like running across buildings and being sneaky. He like does like a stealth takedown at one point. The spy and the American soldier don't really get too much in the trailer, probably because, in terms of like fan recognition, no one's going to be like, oh my God, it's that guy. Like, I don't think he's actually a character in Marvel, but they're making him one now, or they're making them one now. I think it's going to be interesting. 1943, The Rise of Hydra. I think it's going to be interesting, and I'm excited to see more about that. I'm excited to see the actual gameplay, but as of right now, we know it's coming in 2025, barring any delays. So there you go. Animal Well is coming out in May. Dunkey revealed in his latest YouTube video, well, I guess not latest anymore, but a YouTube video not too long ago, that the release date was revealed, and that is May 9th. It's going to cost about $25, and I think it's definitely going to be worth it. This is a visually stunning kind of game. It's got like a CRT filter over it. It kind of reminds you of like that Zoo game that came out, I suppose. But it's like a Metroidvania platformer, puzzle platformer kind of thing. I think it's going to be a very fun time. It looks really good. The music sounds great. The visuals look really great. So I would say check this out if you want to on Big Modes Games official YouTube channel. They have plenty of stuff to show there. So if you want to check that out, it'll be available May 9th. Tales of Iron 2, Whiskers of Winter. Tales of Iron was one of my favorite games in 2021. It definitely stole my heart with its really fun combat and really nice visual style. And the sequel is building upon the predecessor. But you're not going to be playing as the same character or the same faction. No. This story takes place after the events of the first game. And you move over to a new area in like a Nordic type setting. Where they are being attacked by some sort of bat-like creatures. Instead of it being like a medieval theme, it's a Nordic theme. You get things like, just things that look a bit more Nordic, I guess you would say, like the snow-covered areas and stuff like that. The first game was great. I thought it was a very brutal combat system, had a really fun mechanics to it, parry, dodging. The designs of the enemies were great. The level design was great. A little bit too much backtracking, in my opinion, but I think the Metroidvania elements were really good. In a press release, they said, explore a vast and treacherous snow-ravaged kingdom. Master brutal Souls-like combat with dodge rolls, parry, bashes, and gruesome executions. Discover a compelling story narrated by the legendary Doug Cockle, who also works on the Witcher franchise. I already read that one. Overcome savage boss fights against the vicious leaders of the Dark Wings. Hunt down giant beasts for rare resources, just like the first game. Customize your attack style with an extensive range of upgradable weapons. Personalize your appearance from a significant collection of diverse armor sets. Encounter a range of curious companions among the many northern factions. Construct and upgrade your own settlement. and complete side hunts to earn additional gold on the side. So the new thing here is that settlement management. I don't believe there was any real settlement management back in the first game. I think there was a very baseline, like, oh, buy this for me and I will do stuff for you kind of thing in like the castle. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool that they're going to be doing some settlement management along with everything else in the game. So I'm very excited for that. The screenshots and gameplay shown off look really good. The first game is a bit of a sleeper hit, I would say. There's no official release date, but it is coming in 2024, they said. So that is nice. The cult classic Shadows of the Damned is getting a remastered version called the Hella Remastered version. Shadows of the Damned launched in like the PS3 era. Right alongside Alice Madness Returns, EA was publishing some smaller studios games, and this one was one of those games. If you don't know exactly what it is, it's like a third-person action shooter. You know, there's some melee combat in there as well. They're showing the game off at PAX East this year, which is going on right now as I'm recording this. So I missed out on that this year. But yeah, essentially it's going to have some overhauled visuals. But I believe they're leaving most of the game intact. It's just going to be a visual thing. The Hella Remastered version promises to take players on a wild ride with Demon Hunter Garcia Hotspur as he kicks demon ass and makes his way through the darkest depths of hell, lighting up the darkness with his burning passion on a mission to rescue his true love from an insidious demon king. So there you go. If you want to check that out, I don't believe they gave it a release date. Sometime in... Oh, no. That just says at PAX East. So, yeah, I don't think we have an official release date or window yet, but I'm sure they'll reveal that in due time. A game called Harold Halibut is coming out next month. This is a very interesting game. It's the first of its kind, I would say. The game is made out of entirely real-life models and figures. Kind of like Wallace and Gromit almost in a way. And essentially all the animations of the game are hand manipulated and moved, which is just very fascinating. And they could easily just replicate this in like animation, but they went out of their way to move everything by hand, which is pretty crazy. It's coming out April 16th, 2024. It's also coming to Xbox Game Pass, if I'm not mistaken. But it looks really interesting. Every character has been scanned into the game. The set is a city-sized spaceship underneath an alien ocean. I don't know what that exactly means, but there you go. In a press release, a developer named Slowbros said that the final release date is a end of an era for them, as they finally ship Harold Halibut. They worked on it for more than 10 years. Which is pretty cool. So I'm very interested in playing this. It looks really, good. I don't know what the gameplay is going to be exactly. I'm pretty sure it's, I don't know. I'm just pulling this out of my ass. I think it's going to be a bit basic in terms of like gameplay. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe it'll be a bit surprising. Either way, I'm very interested in that, and I'm definitely going to be trying this out. Harold Halibut. You can check out a trailer on Slowbro's YouTube channel. The Souls-like game Enotria, The Last Song, which I talked about a couple weeks ago, finally has a release date for August 21st, 2024. This is the Souls-like game that's like a play, I guess, so hardcore Princess Peach's showtime. Inspired by Italian folklore, the Unreal Engine 5-powered Enotria casts you into a world blighted by the Canovoxio, an eternal stage play in which everyone has a role but you. As the maskless one, your job is to defeat the evil forces behind the strange curse, and so begins another Souls-like quest. If you want to check that out, once again, it comes out August 21st, 2024. Looks pretty good. Still Wakes the Deep, a game that was revealed last year, has an official release date now of June 18th. This is a first-person game where you are on an oil rig that is infected by some sort of monstrous thing. The trailer doesn't show a lot of it, but there is like it's almost like a Resident Evil look where it's like veins and bulbous balls of flesh. Looks very good. It looks very visually stunning. I think it's a very interesting concept of having a horror game on an oil rig. It's something that is a little bit foreign to people, I would say. So very interested to check that out. In a press blurb, they said, search for your crew and help them survive if you can. Run, climb, and swim through the flooding corridors, and storm-lashed outer decks. Face a terrifying, unrelenting foe, and pray that one day you get to see your family again. So, yeah, once again, that's coming June 18th. Still Wakes the Deep. A game called Dustborn, which I'm pretty sure I talked about before as well, has an official release date of August 20th, 2024. This is like a stylish, cel-shaded, narrative, third-person action game where you play as like a group of people who are traveling across the Pacifica to Nova Scotia. And you're with like bandmates, I guess. You recruit new crew members, build relationships, fulfill unexpected assignments, and fight. The creator of the studio says that they plan on taking the experience to new heights in this action adventure genre. It is first and foremost a character-driven game about people and the power of words. So yeah, looks kind of interesting. It's gonna be sold for about $40. If you get the physical edition, you'll get 2 postcards, a map of the route the crew takes through the American Republic, Jesus, and a prequel comic book as well with assortment of stickers alongside the disc, which that's pretty good if you pay. That's a pretty good price there. So there you go. Releasing the same day as Black Myth Wukon's supposed to release though, so I don't know. All right, there's a demo for Sandland available now. This is an RPG coming to PlayStation, Xbox, etc. Bandai Namco uploaded the surprise Sandland demo in honor of the creator passing away. It's available to download now. The demo will give you access to a limited portion of the Sandland map, which you can explore devoid of any story content. So you can kind of explore around and do the combat, but you can't do any of the story stuff. Beelzebub, Rao, and Thief are all playable characters, and you can take the tank and the motorcycle for a spin. For playing the demo, you'll also earn some rewards for use in the full game. If you keep your save data on your PlayStation or Xbox while starting up the new game, you'll earn 30 B-grade steel and 30 B-grade bolt to get an early leg up on upgrading vehicles. Your progression won't transfer to the full game though, which comes out on April 26th. So I think that it's a pretty fun thing to have this demo. It's also a very unique demo in the fact that it's not like the first hour of the game and then you get to play more. It seems like they're giving you the sandbox to play with, and if you want to check it out, there you go. Looks pretty cool. So I might try out the demo. I may perhaps try out the demo. Dead Island 2 second DLC is coming out. This is the second and final story DLC for the game called So-LA or Sola. It's essentially a big music festival that was in LA that is now infested with zombies. There's some unique weapons to find and unique enemies to fight as well. In a press release, they said stage dive into the heart of Soleil, the ultimate Californian music festival built upon ancient grounds. Stalking the pulsating heart of LA's final rave is a psychedelic beat that has unleashed total chaos, leaving nothing but a rotting crater of gore and a malevolent presence haunting in the shadows. Something is out there and is still hungry. The second major DLC will be the final story DLC for Dead Island 2 after the game's house expansion back in November. The full season pass is available for $30, but if you want, you can buy it separately for $12.99. This comes out April 17th. If you want to check that out, looks pretty fun. I have not gotten back to Dead Island 2. There's just too many games to play right now, so I apologize. But even though I really love the game, there's so much to play right now, and there's still more coming. Tachia is finally coming to the Switch in summer. They did not give an official release date, but you will be able to play it in summer, and there's some special Switch-related cosmetics, I guess, coming to the game as well, like a blue and white outfit. A blue and red outfit, which is the base color of the Switch Joy-Cons, obviously. So Yeah, I mean that's really all I gotta say. It's an open world adventure game. You can take control of various objects in the world as your character. You can sail across the ocean, play the ukulele, meet some characters. So if you want to check that out, that will be available soon. I think the Switch is a perfect place for this game to be released. It definitely looks like a Switch game first and foremost. Not like visually or anything like that. It just the vibe of the game is very much like a Nintendo game. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to check that out, it seems to be pretty positively reviewed, and it's coming to Switch very soon. The pre-order bonuses for the Thousand Year Door remake or remaster have been revealed, and these are coming from My Nintendo, so I don't know if they're available on Amazon or Best Buy or anything like that. But coming May 23rd, 2024, you can pre-order the game and get the buildable battle stage, which will be bundled in with Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. This bundle includes a copy of Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door and the buildable battle stage. Build your own battle stage from Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door and help Mario take on all comers. Weird way to put that. It's a pretty sizable piece. Plastic foam and paper rendering printing. Looks pretty good. I hope that it comes with every version of the game because I would love to build this. It looks very fun. It looks exactly like the stage that you would battle on. So it also comes with a couple of enemies to fight as well, along with the audience watching the battle. So I think it's a pretty nice pre-order bonus. And if you want to check that out, I think it's available on My Nintendo first and foremost. I know that for 100%. I don't know if it's available on other pre-order websites as well. And just as a little tidbit, the Amazon version of the Thousand Year Door has sold out, but it's still available on Best Buy and GameStop and other places like that. So don't be dismayed if you can't pre-order on Amazon because it's not the only place. But yeah, it looks like the buildable bundle stage is a separate thing on the My Nintendo store. Maybe not though. Yeah, it's only the bundle. Okay, so I think it does come with every copy of the game, which would be nice. But we'll see when the game officially releases. And finally for today, here are some games leaving the PlayStation Plus Extra tier, which is the second highest paid version of the PlayStation Plus bundle. Games like Ghostbusters, the video game remastered, Bassmaster Fishing 2022. No! Necromunda Underhive Wars, Chicken Police Paint It Red, Soul Calibur 6, Fighting X Layer, R-Type Final 2, Gunvolt Chronicles Luminous Avenger 9, Real Fishing Road Trip Adventure, Everspace, and Dangerous Golf are all leaving the service soon. If you haven't, definitely play the Ghostbusters Remastered. Chicken Police, I heard, is a quirky, fun game. Soul Calibur 6 is obviously a decent fighting game. Everspace is pretty good. I hear good things about that. And Dangerous Golf is like a Burnout-style golf game, which is pretty crazy. If you haven't checked those out, definitely check those out. Definitely would be fun to check out before the games leave at the end of the month. Or I guess they're leaving on April 16th. Sorry about that. They're leaving April 16th. Okay, and that is about it for this episode, folks. I haven't done this in a while, so let's try and get back to the groove now. Let's see if you can guess this song. It's coming back. Give me the name of the song and the game that's from, and I will give you a super reaction in the Discord or a heart and a hearty congratulations in the YouTube comments. Let's listen to the song right now. And that'll do it for today, folks. Thank you so much for listening. I am Yemmy the Ferret. You can check me out at any social media places, pretty much. I'm going to be using Twitter less and less, unfortunately. But I am also on YouTube, Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays. Streaming schedule is back on track, but once again, it could change at the moment's notice. So if you want to, join the Discord. Links down below. Also, I do a podcast called Film Freaks with a Z. We recently talked about planes, trains, and automobiles in the latest episode. So if you want to check that out, it's available now. The Ferret Cafe podcast also gets uploaded in VOD form every Thursday. The recording of the show is at 8 p.m. on Thursday night. If you want to check me out on Twitch and join the conversation. All right, y'all. Have a good rest of your day or week. I am Yemmy the Ferret, and I'm out of here. I'll talk at you next week. Bye-bye.
The Ferret 64 podcast is owned and edited by Yemmy the Ferret. The song Nightshade, used in the intro and outro, is owned by Adhesive Wombat. Small sound clips during the podcast were made by Yemmy the Ferret. News sources include NintendoLife.com, PushSquare.com, and PureXbox.com. All opinions video game related are my own. Thank you for listening.